Welcome. So now we're going to be looking at finding the y-intercept in all of our different formats: standard form, vertex form, and intercept form. If we set x equal to 0, we can find the y-intercept. When we do, we can see that y will be equal to c. Right? Remember, c, we have ax squared plus bx plus c. C is the constant term when the equation is written in standard form. Right? So let's find the y-intercept of the following equation. F of x equals 2x squared plus 8x plus 6. And the value of y when x equals 0, that's the y-intercept. For this one, we're going to plug in 0 for x. Right? We won't always plug in the 0, right, because you'll be able to find the y-intercept very, very easily, even without plugging in the 0. But just to illustrate, we're going to do it for this one. Right, so we have f of 0, right, so f of x just means the value of the function when x is, and then we plug in a value. We want x to be 0, so then we plug in 0 everywhere we see an x. So we have 2 times 0 squared plus 8 times 0 plus 6. Well, 0 squared is 0. Times 2, that's 0. 8 times 0, well, that's 0. So you can see that if I plug in 0 for x, anything with an x is going to be 0. And the only thing left is the constant. So our y-intercept here is the point 0, 6. So when your equation is in standard form, you don't have to do any work to find the y-intercept. It's the value of the constant. So your y-intercept is always equal to c when your equation is in standard form. Right? So that's the easy thing to find in standard form, is the y-intercept. All of the equations have one thing you don't have to do any work for. For the standard form, it's the y-intercept. How about vertex form? Right, well, now we just can't identify it from the graph. Right, so we're going to have to plug in 0 for x and solve for y, just like we did for the other example. Right, but this time we really have to do it. Right, so to find the y-intercept for equations written in vertex form, we'll just have to substitute 0 for x and solve for y. Right, so the value of our function when x is 0 is 2 times 0 plus 2 squared minus 2. Right, so that's, well, 0 plus 2, that's just 2. So I've got 2 times 2 squared minus 2. Remember to square first. So this would be 2 times 4 minus 2. Well, 2 times 4, that's 8. And 8 minus 2, that's 6. So my y-intercept is the point 0, 6. How about that? Got the same point. Right, so all you have to do to find the y-intercept when you're in vertex form is you're just going to plug in 0 for x and just simplify. Right, so that's not too difficult. Not as easy as standard form, but it's not too difficult. Let's look at intercept form. Well, you're going to have to do the exact same thing. Right? To find the y-intercept for equations written in intercept form, you'll have to substitute 0 for x and solve for y. So plug in the 0 for the x, solve for the y. Right, so we have f of 0, the value of the function when x is 0 is 2 times 0 plus 3 times 0 plus 1. Well, 0 plus 3, that's 3, and 0 plus 1, that's 1. 2 times 3 is 6, and 6 times 1, well, that's still 6. Well, interestingly. So here, our y-intercept, well, that's also the point 0, 6. How about that? Must be a popular number. It was a good number that for y-intercepts that year. Right? And that's all there is to finding the y-intercept, whether you're working in standard form, vertex form, or intercept form. So you have to do a little bit of work for vertex and intercept form, but it's not very difficult. And you don't have to do any work at all for standard form. Thanks for watching this podcast. Bye for now.